Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Misinformation Podcast. I am Z, aka the Reluctant Accountant, and let's get into it. So today I'm going back to scams. I know you're going to be tired, but wait. I want to get into something a little bit different today. It is about scams, but it's about the evolution of scams and particularly about AI and the role that AI is now playing in those scams. I do love a scam, so you'll forgive me for dwelling on this topic a little bit too much, but I just find that the anatomy of it and the psychology of it just very interesting, why people do it, why they continue to do it. And I say that because one of my favorite podcasts, and I'm going to shout her out, is called Scam Goddess by Lacey Mosley. So shout out to her. And it's a fabulous podcast. She is there, she has guests on, she's about an hour long, and she talks about different scams that have taken place. But one of the things she starts with on her episode is when she has a guest on, she says, what's your relationship with scams? So I feel like I'm going to start there, and then we're going to get into the kind of meat and bones of what I'll talk about today. And when I'm going to talk about my relationship with scams, I'm not about to bait myself out because I'm not of that generation that, self-incriminates online. But I will talk about a few things that I've noticed recently, for example. So one of the things that I noticed, I say recently, this was last year. Last year I went to Cyprus, and when I was getting my airport pickup, they were like, oh, we need to message on WhatsApp. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And after I returned from Cyprus, I would then get these weird WhatsApp messages from like random numbers and also calls as well. People would just call me, and shouts to them for trying to call me and trying to, do what they do. And I'm not trying to knock their hustle. I'm certainly not a person that you can like try and scam on the phone. It's very difficult just because I have a weird relationship with my phone. I've got like a 3 to 5 business day response time, even for telephone calls. And so people calling me out of the blue from an unknown number, I fully turn into busy signal, and I'm like, mina answer a private call. So good for them though. No, nothing beats a try. But going further than that and thinking about WhatsApp, I also had a friend of mine who had their WhatsApp hacked, which I didn't even know you could do that. How are you hacking people's WhatsApp? And what's really funny about that situation was, this is a friend I've known for well over a decade, probably 15 years or something like that. And this person sent me a message, and I kid you not, the message was, hey, no, was it hey or was it hello? I think it was hello. So they sent me a message and they were like, hello, what are you doing? Or something. No, was it what are you doing? Okay, hold on. Let me get it. They sent me a message and they said, hello, how are you? And immediately I was like, who the fuck is this? Who is this? Because for me, that person, don't get me wrong, this friend is not a rude friend at all. And they would ask me, how am I doing? But they wouldn't ask me like that. And I was like, oh my God, they've been kidnapped, which I'm not going to get into it, but it's always a possibility. You never know what can happen. I was like, who is this? So I messaged the person on another thing, and I was like, who's got your phone? What's going on? What kind of trap is this? And then they were like, yeah, my phone got hacked, da-da-da. But it was so funny because for me, any change, I'm so sensitive to scams, not even just because I listen to all these scam podcasts and whatever, but I'm so sensitive to it. Any change in intonation, in phraseology, in communication styles, I'm like, someone's trying to scam me. Who the hell is this? So it turns out it was, obviously a scam. But it was just so funny that I got it from the initial message where they were probably like, yeah, it's good English. Send that. No one's going to know. I was like, nah, that person never sends me a message like that. So that was interesting. So be vigilant, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. Be vigilant. Because I think there's a laziness that comes into it, that we're so used to this overload of communication through various media that we don't often take time to kind of go, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't sound right. Because the scams are evolving, and we're going to get into that. So I remember when scamming online started, because back in the day, scams used to be a thing where you would go out to somebody and you had to like really work your con. It was like a long con, right? You couldn't just do anything. It had to be, you were putting in, it was a craft. There was an art to it back in the day. And there were victims. So, you know, I'm not trying to glorify the life, but there was a difference. And as I guess technology advanced, scammers got a little bit lazier and they just thought, you know what, we could maybe go for volume or whatever. And I remember the rise of like the Nigerian prince scam and how many people got caught in that. Like despite the spelling mistakes or whatever, we were all so naive. I say we, but not me. I'm not sending no one in me. But that was something that was like really big at the time, right? There was this like, all these people were getting trapped because they genuinely thought that the only way for this poor Nigerian prince to get his money was for them to send over money to some unknown person. So that was like one of the first things that came out in terms of like those email scams. But the scammers are evolving. The scammers are evolving. Now, we're talking about AI taking over our jobs. They're taking over the scammers' jobs as well. So we've all celebrated, I'm saying we've all, but people have celebrated or bemoaned the rise of AI, for example, when you've got these AI cloning people's voices, like celebrities' voices to make new tracks and so on and so forth. What's really interesting about that is, I mean, most things are a scam in capitalism anyway, but they're also using this to scam people on the phone. So they'll call and be like, put on the voice of somebody that you know or that you recognize. And they've been doing this a lot to vulnerable old people. And I don't like that. So listen, if you're listening, scammers, you know, like I feel like I hate it when old people get scammed because I want to be old one day and I don't want people to try and scam me because it just feels so sad. So they'll do stuff like they'll call, I've heard these stories about them calling people's old like grandparents or elderly relative and saying, oh, so-and-so has been arrested and needs bail money. Can you send so-and-so? Otherwise they're going to jail. And God rest my grandmother's soul. She's not alive to receive a call such as that. However, if she did, if that woman paid out, I'd be like, why would you think I was in jail? And I just have questions because some of you, like, how are your grandparents paying out this money? How do they have that money to pay out first? And why are they not questioning it? Why are they like, oh yeah, he bad. You know what? He was always a bad kid. So why are they just paying out the money? Again, the scammer is at fault, but I also question your relationship and how they see you because why are they just so quick to say, oh yeah, this is a legit call. He's definitely going to be in jail. Let me send over my life savings. Anyway, so we're going to move on. So what they're doing is, what I wanted to think about is this kind of, you know, evolution with AI being used as scams. And that's what they're doing. They're kind of going out on these calls. There's like highly pressurized environments and they're either using, you know, voice changers or whatever, but there is hope. This is, you know what, I feel like sometimes I've been given talks and I've been talking to people and I've been doing videos and it seems a little bit downtrodden and it kind of feels like, oh my God, every day, every week something gets worse. But no, this week I wanted to focus on the fight back because, you know, like the machine's rising, we too will rise and fight back. And sometimes you got to get down in the trenches. Sometimes Michelle Obama, when they go low, we got to go lower. And somebody heard this cry and they've been doing it. Now, one of the ways, I've seen a few things happening. I've seen one guy that, I don't even know how he did it. If you can look this up online, there's one guy that when the scammers call him or when he gets a wind of it, I don't know how he gets them to call him, but then he hacks their system and then starts talking about them. So if you go in, you'll see they're in the call center surprised that he's figured out who they are.
In a secret office, there's a room full of scammers. And incredibly, I've been able to see exactly what they do through their own CCTV.
Yes, sir, I can. Yeah, I'm still there. Yep.
So you're lying about that? Are you? What's going on here? What's going on? Hello?
Allow me 1 minute, sir. I'm just checking that for you, okay? Yeah, please stay on the line.
So, wait, hello?
This scammer calls himself Mark Robinson, but his real name is Chewin.
Now, shout outs to him, but he's a lone ranger. He can't do everything. And I read this article, and I'm going to share, that's what I want to kind of share with you today. I read this article that reminded me of me, to be honest with you. And the reason I say this, not like oh, I'm every woman, but I'm somebody that if you're going to waste my time, I'm going to waste yours. And because I think everything's a scam, then I just have this tendency to try and waste everybody's time. So apparently somebody else had this idea. This man called Professor Dali Kafar. I'm hoping I've said that name right. If you are watching this on YouTube or wherever, then I'm going to put his name up. And he has invented a system to disrupt the AI scammers. And I love it because it is so simple, but it's so effective. And for me, those are the best things, right? So what's been happening before this, before he's come into his crazy idea that he and I both had, by the way, so I feel like I should be getting some royalties. But before I get deep into that, I want to kind of just give you a heads up on if you've been lucky enough not to have been called by a scammer or not been approached by a scammer, what that actually looks like. So a lot of the time, what they're doing is they're using bots. And the thing with these bots is that they can now mimic real conversation. So they'll ask kind of questions in real time. They can adapt in real time as well. And they can even create like a sense of urgency, which we know is one of the like key things when people are being scammed. If you create that sense of urgency, they don't have time to process things in their rational brain. So they're in that kind of fight, flight, freeze mode. And that's how they get them. That's how the scammers get them. And don't forget, part of this is our fault because we're giving away so much personal information online for free nowadays. That secret answer isn't a secret anymore. People are going, if you're still on Facebook, they're just going through and they'll be like, I know your mother's maiden name because she's on here and she told us, nay, blah, blah, blah. So all of this stuff is readily available for open source. It's not something that people need to really know you to get that information anymore. And so coupled with that information, they can curate and put that information into these AI machines, and then they just come out and those babies are learning in real time. So obviously the scammers are doing this because, to put it bluntly, this is like way more efficient, right? So if you think about everyone's scared of AI taking over just regular jobs, they're also taking over the scammers' jobs as well because they can target much bigger samples of the population than any kind of one individual could ever do just doing it on their own. So, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing. But yeah, AI is also taking out the scammers' jobs. But what makes the AI chatbots so effective is that they, as I said, pick up on language patterns. So what it means is they can pick up on how you speak and tailor responses to you in real time. So for example, if you're hesitating, they can pick up on that and change their strategy on the fly. It's like literally social engineering, but on steroids. And as I said, we don't need to take this lying down, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else. We're not taking this lying down because whilst AI giveth with the right hand, AI will taketh away with the left hand. So it's just whatever it is. And so there is a fight back, as I mentioned. And this idea, I'm going to say it was inspired by me, but apparently no idea is original. So somebody else had this idea and they're putting it to work. So I'm going to tell you about it. So a key player in this is Apate. I think I said that right. Apate. It's Apate. However you want to pronounce it. But this, as I mentioned before, Professor Dali Kafar is the person that developed this software or this AI magic, if you like, in order to help us with this great fight back against the machines that we also created. Apate has been specifically designed to combat and detect scam callers and block the fraudulent calls before they even reach consumers. And how do they do that? You're asking. Thank you. Well, thank you for asking me. As co-founder of this idea, they do it by frustrating people. So one of the things, if you've ever been on a scam call, one of the things that they hate is when you keep them on the call. They don't want you keeping them on the call. They want to get to what they're doing. They want to create that pressurized environment, sell, buy, whatever it is. They don't want you focusing on the fact that this is a scam or maybe a scam. You're not supposed to have time to think. So if you slow it down and if you ask stupid questions and you do all of that, they may see, oh, you're engaged, but also they think that they're going to get to the scam at the end of it. And all you're doing is just wasting their time. And so what myself and Professor Dali Kafar have come up with is just do that on a bigger scale. So what he's doing is like basically running interference with these tools that they go out and they find these potential fraudulent calls and they're intercepted. And then they just have AI chatbots, which I guess are speaking to bots. Now the machines have their own community, right? So we've got the bots speaking to the bots, just wasting each other's time. And hopefully everyone is now living their lives in the peace in the background. What Apate does, it uses machine learning algorithms so that they can analyze caller behavior and identify patterns that are typical of scam calls. This is one of the most effective strategies because these systems can actually sift through like vast amounts of data in a much quicker than any human would have been able to do it. And they can also detect anomalies and scam activity. So Apate, the company, it also collaborates with telecommunications companies to help integrate the technology into their existing phone system so that they can ensure that fewer scam calls are even getting through. So, for example, telecommunications companies in Australia have blocked almost 2 billion with a B, people, 2 billion scam phone calls since December 2020. Now, obviously, these things come at a little bit of a cost. So that is thanks in part to funding of about 720,000 from the Office of National Intelligence. So basically what they're saying is that there are now potentially like hundreds of thousands of victim chatbots that they are just playing the victim. So what they do is when these calls come in, they also have different characters. So you might have like Malcolm, who's an old Australian man. And then you'll have somebody else. They'll be like Guinevere, who's a upscale, whatever. So they have different accents, different voices. These victim chatbots are just, as I said, running interference on these calls. So the calls are just not going through. And the bots have a range of emotions and accents and ages and everything else. Sometimes like they'll be skeptical, sometimes they'll be naive, sometimes they'll be outright rude. It's just so funny and so weird because if you think about it, we've created this thing that's supposed to help us live our lives, and then bad actors have got hold of this thing, this AI, and used it to try and hurt us and hurt people on a bigger scale. And so we've used that same thing to interact with the thing that's hurting us. So there is now a whole other section of, I wouldn't say society, but certainly there is like a community of bots just talking to themselves and fighting in the corner. Like, it just seems so ridiculous. Like, it really seems ridiculous that we have this thing whereas like the AI is now trying to target us. So we've sent AI to fight back at the AI, and they're all fighting over here in the corner, and we can now hopefully only the good calls are getting through. Honestly, reality truly is stranger than fiction sometimes, but here we are. Wow, 2024. So there are other players in the game. So obviously I've mentioned Apate, but there is Truecaller. Truecaller is a notable player in this field as well. You may have heard of this app. I don't know. It identifies unknown callers, essentially. And so it uses a crowdsourced database, which allows users to report spam numbers, which I always do that. If I get a missed call from a number that I don't know, I will be searching the internet to be like, who was this? And if it can't give me an answer, I'm like, then I didn't need to know who they were. That's how I feel about it. Oh, also, don't even count on it. Because you know, sometimes like you have phones that will be like, oh, it's HMRC. The scammers can do that too now. Whatever that thing is that says that they're HMRC, the scammers are getting onto that. I'm not saying to ignore HMRC. Obviously pay your taxes. But I'm just saying, could be a scam. It could be. Probably is. Even if it is from the real guys, because they'd scam you too. Anyway, let's move on. So we had Truecaller. Truecaller is an app that helps you to identify unknown callers, as I say. And yes, uses database from reports made by people that have received these scam calls. And again, their AI technology continuously learns from users over time. So it just becomes smarter and smarter, hopefully. Here we are. I'm saying hopefully. I don't know. I'm sure it does. But again, it's just funny how we're creating problems and then have to create the solution from the problem. Anyway, let me continue. There's also RoboKiller. So this RoboKiller doesn't just identify the scam calls, it also blocks them. I need this in my life. I need to start just adding some numbers of people I know to that as well, because stop calling me. Why are you calling me? So RoboKiller, interestingly, uses advanced audio fingerprinting technology to recognize scam calls rather. And it even answers those calls with a pre-recorded message. I love this. That wastes scammers' time. You know what this reminds me of? I'm sorry, I'm old and I have to share this with you because if you didn't do this, then maybe you're too young to be listening to me anyway. Back in the day, voicemails were the thing, yeah? You would have like those messages where people go, hello? Hey? Sorry, hold on a second, I can't hear you. Hello? Oh. Is this Sophie? Sorry, you know what? It's probably I can't hear your voice. Oh, yeah, you know what? I'm not actually here right now. This is a voice message. And like people would go nuts because they thought they were so innovative and whatever. But this is what nothing, I tell you, no idea is original. This is what RoboKiller reminds me of. Like you've got a pre-recorded message to waste people's time. Honey, we were doing that already. We invented this stuff. This is what I'm saying. Guys, go and do your idea because it's already out there. Don't worry about telling people. It's just who does it. That whoever executes the idea is the person that's going to make the money because the idea is already out there. Every idea we think is original, it never is. Because look at this, RoboKiller is essentially what we were doing back in the early 2000s or the 90s. I mean, 90s, did I have a phone? But whatever, early 2000s certainly. We already done that. We've been there, we done that. We invented everything. So there are obviously public awareness campaigns that are going on. I think there is a Better Business Bureau that is actively trying to raise people's consciousness of what's going on with these scammers because they are out there, guys. I'm not trying to scare you, but there are really loads of scam people out there. I think if you're maybe fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know how you want to look at it, but for me, I feel quite fortunate that I can become quite disengaged with my phone. And so because of that, I'm sure loads of people have scammed me or tried to scam me rather. But they've just not gotten through because I'm just like, I don't know who that person is. I don't know why they're calling me without texting me first. Yeah. So as awful as people find my interactions on the telephone, it's about keeping myself safe from the scammers that are out there. But we do need to keep ourselves safe because there are new threats that are emerging every time. And like, call your grandparents, guys. Call your old people in your life and warn them about these things and do all of these things and go and visit them so that they know that when they get a call saying you're in jail, it's unlikely that you're in jail because they know that you're a good person and all of these other things. Please do this because stop letting them scam old people. That winds me up. So going back to Kafar, he does hope that Apate will completely disrupt the scam business industry. Can I say that? Yes, because it is an industry. It's not just one person that managed to buy a call center. It's a $1 billion industry. And he wants to disrupt the business model because these scam centers and things are often run by huge like criminal organizations. I mean, I'm not even sure, but they probably have board meetings. I don't know. But can you imagine that though? I don't know. I've never been part of a criminal organization that I've known about anyway. And I always kind of think like how, if you were in if you were in a company that was essentially just like a scamming company and you all knew that, how would you trust anyone there? Like there is no honor among thieves. I have the feeling that this podcast episode wasn't necessarily the uplifting one I meant it to be. In my head, I wanted to tell you how we were fighting back and we were going to win in this fight against scammers. I think I did that a little bit, but I also just showed you a little bit, if you were paying attention, how AI invented the software. No, I didn't, but I'm joking. What I really wanted to do in this episode was just to kind of speak about AI because there's a lot of things that people talk about and there's this threat and there's that threat. And I think the biggest way that we can fight back, apart from obviously these people coming up with these great technologies to be disruptive and frustrate the scammers, is awareness. That is the biggest tool that we have. Awareness and laziness, i.e. don't respond to anybody, then it's very difficult to be scammed. But also if you have that awareness, then you're less likely to be scammed and you have to remain vigilant for yourself and for your loved ones that are perhaps more vulnerable because, as I said, they have a tendency to target vulnerable people, which I don't like that. So a few things I would say just to leave you with, just to feel like I'm giving out some, good public information that will be helpful. Here are 3 tips I would say to identify and help stop scammers. So first thing, if something is a scam, if it sounds too good to be true, I know it's the old adage, but if it sounds too good to be true, then it is. Please stop believing in the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. If it sounds too good to be true, then it is, then it is, then it is. Nothing is for free in this world. Please believe me when I tell you this. The amount of people, and it's hard as well, because that's the thing. Stop shaming people when they get scammed, okay? I know that you think that you would never be scammed, but the likelihood is you probably could be. Social engineering is a craft, and they're getting better and better at it. So stop shaming people, because it leads to really dire consequences. Oh no, I want it to end a good note. But it does. So stop shaming people, but also people stop believing in rainbows and stop believing in unicorns and stop believing that something is too good to be true, but this good fortune fell on you. It didn't. Err on the side of caution, please. The second thing is, if someone is pressuring you, then that is not good. If they're a genuine company, they don't need to pressure you. Don't let anyone pressure you. And these high pressurized tactics, take your time, speak to people. They should want you to be able to go away and investigate and then come back after doing your due diligence. If they don't, walk away. I don't care if they're a legit company, because legit companies can scam you too, and often do. Please, let's be serious. So first things first, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. Second thing is, if they're pressuring you, highly pressurized, walk away from that. And the third thing is verify. Verify. Go and do your due diligence. We live in an age of information, guys. You can look on your phone, you can ask people, you can do things. And if a lot of people are saying it sounds like a stupid idea, it's not that everybody is stupid. It probably is a stupid idea. So please do as much due diligence as you can, because nobody in this economy can afford to be losing money. So I'm trying to help you. That's what this is about, saving you and giving you hope, because there's so little of it around right now, especially if you're in the UK. The weather's really miserable. But anyway, that was probably a bit loud, sorry. But anyway, but I have come to the end of today's episode. I'm getting the hang of this slowly but surely. Stick around. I know if you've made it here, I think this is episode 10 or something, and you're thinking, I don't know. I'm like machine learning. I will only learn and get better. So stick around. We're going to get there. But of course, I'm not just here. I am everywhere. I'm ubiquitous. That's not even the word. It's ubiquitous. I do know how to say it. Sometimes, again, I will get better at my pronunciation. So if you would like to find me somewhere else, don't turn up at my house. No, I'm on social media. I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram at The Reluctant Accountant. At The Reluctant Accountant is the handle. You can also email me. Do that. It's courteous, especially if you're a Nigerian prince. Yeah, definitely do that. That's the misinformationpodcast@gmail.com. That is the miss with 2 S's informationpodcast@gmail.com. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to say look forward to episode 11, but it might be a slightly sad one as well. But look forward to it anyway. Just bring your tissues. See you then. Bye.